This check this this.
I can speak Japanese.
Cek. Ya, kita start ya. Cek. Ini Prof, slide-nya next and previous. Ya. Oke, nggak apa-apa Prof, santai aja. Alright. Okay. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. How's your lunch? Happy enough? Very happy. Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming. So this is almost the end of the semesters, and I guess you already know that we'll have like one guest lecture sessions. And for today's sessions, actually will be delivered by one of our guests from Edinburgh Napier University from UK. This is Professor Nathalia Chandra. So one of the good thing with Professor Nathalia, he can speak 2 languages, 3 at least. It's like English, Bahasa, and Bahasa Jawa. It's Javanese. So I'm from Malang as well, so I can speak Javanese. But if you want to ask any question in Javanese also, I guess, yeah, she'll be fine as well. And I won't take so much time for this stage. So I just want to welcome Professor Nathalia Chandra to the stage, and let's give her a big round of applause. Okay, thank you, Prof.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, as my colleague here is saying that I can speak 3 languages, Indonesian, English, and Japanese, but I'm probably more fluent in Japanese and also English. So this afternoon, I will just deliver my presentation in English, okay? Just in case if I start speaking Japanese, some of you will not understand it. So when I was asked to deliver this presentation, I wasn't really sure what I should actually deliver. So I guess I could probably give you a little bit of maybe insight of my journey of being a professor. So the title that was proposed by colleagues in BINUS is Beyond Borders, Forging Academic Branding and Professional Identity. So at the top there, it says Inspire. So Inspire is actually a new network that we developed, funded by the British Council, growing global partnerships in collaboration with BINUS. So the purpose of the Inspire network is pretty much trying to foster collaboration between Indonesian and Scottish universities. So Inspire actually stands for Indonesia-Scotland Partnership for Impactful Research and Education. So yeah, I'm going to maybe give you a little bit of introduction about myself. So my name is Nathalia Chandra. I'm currently a professor in marketing and also Associate Dean International at Edinburgh University. My research area is actually marketing. So I do work in the area of, let me think if this is working. This is working now? No. It's not working. The battery is on. Ah, it does. Need to be harder. Oh, okay, go. So yeah, I'm based in Edinburgh. I work at Edinburgh University. So that's also the place where I did my PhD. My research area is actually in branding, business-to-business marketing, sustainability, and also gender equality. So in my spare time, I do a lot of cooking, gardening, photography, traveling, and also I love reading books. So I always read books every single day, not academic books. I do a lot of reading on historical novels. Mostly I love historical novels where the women are actually the heroine. When the women are actually really stupid, they just kind of like, what are you thinking? Okay. So I love cooking very much. So my first published book was actually a recipe book. So, you know, a few years ago, I think during COVID, we didn't really have anything to do. So we're looking for other things to do. So one of my colleagues or one of my friends is actually a publisher. And then he was asking, oh, Nathalia, you do a blog on recipes. So why don't we create the book? So we ended up publishing a book. So today I'm going to give you maybe some ideas and hopefully it could give you some inspiration if you're thinking about pursuing career in academia. But I also want to highlight that everything that I'm going to share to you today, I think it's going to be relevant if you want to pursue anything that you want to pursue, basically. Okay. So maybe a little bit of my journey. I was born and raised in Surabaya in Indonesia, obviously. So when I finished my high school, let me think, it was really long time ago in 2004. I always wanted to study abroad. Okay, so I was always wanted to study abroad. I was very fortunate because my grandmother and my mother, they're very they're quite advanced in their thinking, and then they didn't differentiate whether you're female or male. In their view, you will need to pursue a really high education to give you chance in life. Okay, so my family are actually quite humble, so we are not coming from a rich family. So if I want to go abroad and study, I need to get a scholarship. Okay. So at the time, there were a lot of scholarships available for Indonesian students to study in the Netherlands. So I was applying for the scholarship. And then it was quite interesting for me to be able to, I went to normal schools. I was not going to international school. So all of my courses were actually in Indonesian. Okay. So what was quite interesting is that before I went abroad, or before, if I want to get a scholarship to go to the Netherlands, I need to have, I need to get a TOEFL. Now it's IELTS, I think that people use. So then it was TOEFL, okay? And it was quite interesting because my goal was that I just want to study abroad. There are a lot of places that I can choose, but I want to go to the Netherlands because there was scholarship there. Tuition fee was really cheap at the time. So when I went out, I was studying really hard to get my TOEFL started. I did a lot of extra lessons to pass the TOEFL test. I think I failed my TOEFL 3 times. Okay. And it was quite funny because my brother basically said to me, for me to pass the TOEFL test, I was sleeping with dictionaries around me. So that was kind of like telling you how crazy it is. Thinking back about my journey, it was quite interesting because now I become a professor at Edinburgh University. I'm actually the youngest professor in the university. So I became a professor last year at the age of 37. And I'm also the only female Indonesian professor in Edinburgh out of 2. So the other one is male. And then it's me. And then in the whole UK, there are about 2 female Indonesian professors. So every time I have very hard things to do, or kind of like facing a hurdle, I always think about the time where I had to work really hard to go abroad. Okay. So I was in the Netherlands for about 1.5 years, and then internationalization of being international or having an international job has always been my dream. Okay, it has always been my dream. So and it was interesting because at the time there was an opportunity to do an exchange program, and it was an Erasmus program, so it was quite free. And the exchange program that I can choose from is actually going to the UK. So I was given an opportunity to do an exchange program for 6 months to study in the UK. And then my mom, I was saying to my mom, like, I would want to, I would like to go to the UK because, I don't know, it has always been everybody's dream at the time to study in the UK. So I went to the UK. I was studying at Southampton Solent University. So my first degree in the Netherlands was actually international communication management. So when I went to the UK, I really love it. And it's actually quite incredible that the whole experience was very amazing. So for 6 months, when I was in the Netherlands, I had to do part-time jobs as well, a lot of part-time job. I was working in the Indonesian takeaway in the Netherlands. I learned to cook Indonesian food, not in Indonesia, but when I was in the Netherlands. So, and I remember then when I was working in the Netherlands, I work, for example, I would wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning. I will go to the restaurant and I will work. And then after that, I will stop about 12 o'clock and I put a lot of perfumes on. And then I went to the university to study until 6 o'clock. And I finished and I went back to work again until about 10 o'clock. So I do that, almost every day. During the weekend, I will just work all the time. It's just crazy. But when I went to the UK, for the whole 6 months, I was studying a lot. I fell in love with the library. I think I did mention to you that I love reading. So I fell in love with the library because it's a massive building just full of books. And then for the whole 6 months, I didn't have to work because I saved enough money to make sure that I can pay my living costs when I was in the UK. Okay, so it was the best 6 months of my life when I just need to study without doing any work. Okay, so if you guys are studying without having to do any part-time job, really treasure it because it's really, really tough to do that. So when I was in the UK, I really love it. I really love the courses. And then towards the end of my degree, I was basically speaking to my parents and I said, like, is it possible if I transfer my degree to the UK? So the logic that I give to my mom is that if I move to the UK, because the Dutch degree was about 4 years and the English degree is actually 3 years. So if I move to Southampton, I will finish my degree a year quicker and I can go home quicker. So my mom was kind of like, oh, okay, I think that's a good idea because, you can go home quicker. But I never go home after that. So so I actually decided to transfer my degree to Southampton. So I finished my university undergraduate degree. I actually got the best dissertation award. Again, it shows that how much I love research and also I love reading. So when I finished my degree, I then saying to my mom again, like, actually, 3 years is too fast. I would like to study more. So I was saying to my mom, I want to study international marketing and I want to study master's degree. So my mom was very, not happy about it, obviously, because she wanted me to go home. And also at the time, I still have 2 brothers. My brothers were studying in Malaysia. So my parents have to support my brothers as well. There are not a lot of opportunities for them to work like I did. So my mom basically said, if you want to study your master's, you need to pay by yourself. I was like, oh my God. I was kind of like, that's very interesting. So during my time in Southampton, I also do a lot of part-time jobs. So I was working in a Chinese restaurant. I couldn't speak Chinese. I couldn't write Chinese. But I have to take the order in Chinese. So I learned how to take the order in Pinyin, like in very simple Pinyin. And I worked there throughout my degree, basically. What was quite interesting then, when I was about to do my master's, my boss was basically saying to me, Nathalia, I said to my boss, I want to study in Bournemouth. I think some of you know that you have a collaboration with Bournemouth University. So I was saying to my boss that I'm going to study in Bournemouth. So Bournemouth is about 45 minutes away from Southampton. Yeah. And then I worked quite a lot in that restaurant. And then my boss basically said to me, like, Nathalia, you can do your master's in Bournemouth, but you should live in Southampton and work here part-time. I was like, oh my God, this is kind of like, I'm not sure if I can do it because I have to take a bus in the morning if I go to Bournemouth, and it takes about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the traffic. And then my boss basically said, how much money you have saved to pay for your tuition fee? Because he knows that my mom basically said, like, if I want to do it, I will have to pay it myself. So my boss basically said to me, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for you. She's very, very kind. So she was basically saying, I'm going to pay half of your tuition fee. Okay, so I say I have saved half. So she said, I will pay half of your tuition fee. And what you're going to do is that you still work here in the restaurant, okay? And then every week you will pay me, maybe £100 or whatever to pay off the tuition fee. And I thought, like, okay, that is possible. But that means that I have a hell of a life in that 1 year period. Because every morning I will have to go to Southampton taking a bus. So I was normally, running going to the bus station, which is about half an hour away from my accommodation. Took a bus for about 45 minutes, sleeping to an hour, woke up, studying in the library or, kind of like doing assessment or studying. And then by 5 o'clock, I had to run back to the bus station and then started studying again. Started working in the restaurant until 11:30. But the good thing is because I was working in the restaurant, I didn't have to pay anything for food. They're very kind. So when I arrive, they feed me. When I go home, they give me more food. It's great. So that was actually really, probably one of the hardest period of my life. For the whole year, I was doing it almost every single day. On Saturday, Sunday, I will work, God knows, too many hours, okay? During holidays, I also work all the time. So by the time I finish my degree, I pay off my boss for the tuition fee. I think my parents couldn't believe that I was able to do that because I was very stubborn. So towards the end of my degree, my supervisor was asking me, Nathalia, what is it that you want to do after you finish your degree? And I said, I'm going to work in marketing. And then he asked me, okay, which area of marketing? There are so many areas of marketing that you can work on. Is it in advertising? At the time, there was not much things on social media, apart from Friendster. I don't know if you know Friendster. And then he said, or is it marketing communication that you want to work on? So I said, actually, I want to work in market research because I just love research. And I think he could see that because my dissertation has the highest grade of the year. And then it was like actually printed in 2 volumes because it was very thick. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And at the time, there was no AI. There is no AI. So my parents, my supervisor was basically saying to me, have you ever thought about doing a PhD? It's like, my family were not very academics. So my parents didn't complete their university degrees. I didn't really have role models. So I was basically saying, what is a PhD? So he basically told me, PhD is where you're actually going to work doing research all your life. and nobody really cares. The only thing you need to do is to do research and publish papers. That's what he said. I was like, that's quite interesting. So I said to him, because by that time I was quite exhausted, working and studying at the same time. I basically said to him, I would do it if I got a scholarship. That's what I said. At the time, I still wasn't really sure what is a PhD. So I went back to Indonesia for a holiday. And then I told my parents that I would like to do a PhD. My mom was really against it. My mom was basically saying to me, like, if you were doing a PhD, who is going to marry you? And at the time, I already had a boyfriend for a few years. And then now he became my husband. Obviously, because my husband is English, so I didn't tell my parents. My parents are also quite conservative. So my mom was really dead against it. And what was quite interesting, when I got home, she already arranged a job interview for me. Can you imagine that your parents actually arranged a job interview? I was like, she asked me to attend this job interview. I went for the job interview just to please her. And then after that, I just left. And then before I left, I remember this because my mom was very unhappy with the idea that I would do a PhD, because she was worried that, if you're a woman and then you have a PhD, it's going to be very difficult for me to find a partner, a life partner. My dad, on the other hand, was very interesting. So my dad actually took me aside before I left. And then he basically said to me, okay, in front of your mom, I might say I would disagree. I would support your mom. I would say that you should not do a PhD. Okay. However, you need to know that you get my full blessing. If you want to do a PhD, you really need to achieve your dream. That's what my dad said. At the time, I wasn't really sure whether it was a dream. Okay, I was just kind of like, I'm not sure. I want to study. Sure, because it's something that I love. I want to work internationally. That's what I was thinking. And I went back to the UK. I applied for jobs, and also I applied for scholarships. So there was an opportunity at the time to apply scholarship at Edinburgh Napier University. So we call it studentship. So that means that they pay for your tuition fee and also your living costs. And this one is very unique PhD because I had to do it with one of the largest financial services institution in the UK. So the project is actually for this financial services institution. Now, you probably know that in the UK, you normally have the local student tuition fee, the international student tuition fee. So my scholarship only cover the local student tuition fee. So if I want to study at Edinburgh Napier University, then I had to find the gap between the international student tuition fee and also the local student tuition fee. At the time, I just kind of like, okay, if I got it, I will just worry about it later. Yeah. I went for an interview. So I applied, I put a proposal together. I wasn't really sure what to do, but I just felt Edinburgh was the first place that I went on holiday with my partner. My boyfriend then, my husband now. And we both love Edinburgh. So this opportunity comes, right? So it's in front of you. And it was great. So I said, right, I'm going to go and I'm going to apply for the PhD. I went for the interview in Edinburgh. And then the next day, I was called and they said I actually got the studentship. So I told my mom on the phone, and she was hysterical. She was like crying on the phone. I never saw my mom really angry, but she was really angry that I was actually going to do this PhD. Anyway, I was basically very stubborn, and I basically said, nobody is going to pay somebody to do a PhD like this. And this PhD is a great opportunity because I'm not just going to do academic research, but I'm also going to do industry-related research. And it's actually very important because it will be the best of the both worlds. So my mom was not happy, but of course, my dad, my dad was like, also, you should not do it. But I know my dad supported me. So I just went ahead and I just did it. I think my mom was not really speaking to me for a few weeks, but I was in the UK, so I really can't feel the wrath. I was worried then about, the difference between the UK and international students' tuition fee. And then it was interesting because why? Out of the blue, I actually got another scholarship from the Scottish government, which paid the difference between the UK and international student tuition fee. It was kind of like, my PhD was pretty much paid by 3 different parties. So that was really interesting experience for me. And I just kind of like thinking, I remember when I was doing my PhD, one of my tutor basically said to me that, Nathalia, you should enjoy the PhD right now because you used to work a lot. So you really need to give your everything to do the PhD because you have this opportunity. And I did. Okay. I was doing a lot of teaching. And the funny thing was, like, even though I know I was doing a PhD, I wasn't really sure that by the time I finished my PhD, I would be a lecturer. I was quite clueless because I thought, oh, maybe after I do my PhD, I was still going to work in the industry. Again, I didn't have a role model. I don't really know what I got myself into. The only thing I know is that I love studying. I love the topics. I work with this really great company, and I have a really good university who look after me. Okay, so I give everything that I can to do my PhD. And within that period of time, it was probably, you're doing a PhD, it's very stressful. You start teaching students as well. So you were given opportunities to teach students. And I really loved that. And it was amazing. And I realized that this is where I want to be. I want to be a lecturer. And I was being exposed to a lot of international students, international opportunities. So I thought, this is where I want to be. Okay. I actually did my FIVA in 2013. It was really tough time. My godfather was really ill. And then, so he was my dad's brother. I did my FIVA on the day of my godfather's funeral. And that was kind of like, it was very tough. However, I actually passed my FIVA with no correction. So it's very rare if you did a PhD to pass with no correction. But if you think about it, I had a lot of opportunities to pretty much apply myself during that PhD time. Okay. And so I graduated, and then I was given a job right away by Edinburgh Napier University. So before I finished my PhD, they just say, like, when you finish, there is a job ready for you to go. I still have to go to the interview process and stuff, but because I already teaching with them anyway, so that was quite a nice process. And yeah, so that's pretty much my story. I work at Edinburgh Napier University since 2013, and then last year in 2014. Well, let me think. I think in 2018 I became associate professor. And then in 2024, I became a full professor. For me, it was unexpected. It was very, very quick. If you think about it, I never thought that I would become a professor when I was 37. So I don't know. I think it was just very, it was, for me, still a bit surreal. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some ideas. So I was doing a bit of reflection on this. So what I'm presenting to you today is not from ChatGPT, but this is based on, what I was reflecting quite a bit in terms of, how did I actually make it possible? Okay. And how I could actually go through the whole process. I know it was hard, and I know it was crazy at times. I know there were a lot of uncertainties, but how could I actually do that and persevere to achieve what I want to achieve? So the first thing that I always want to tell you is that that I think is always working is that when you really understand who you are, okay? When you really know who you are as a person. The last thing that you want to do is that when you're being very dishonest, okay, about who you are as a person. And understanding who you are, knowing what you want is actually quite important. Sometimes you don't know what you want. But the thing is, you need to be very confident, or that you need to be very sure in your own skin. And I think this is a very, very important advice. Okay, it's very hard because we're living in a collectivist society, especially in Indonesia. I always joke with my parents that the aunties, the aunties always want to know your business, basically, right? So I remember before I went to the Netherlands, my aunties are the one who really against I went to the Netherlands. Because they basically say to me, like, you're a girl, why were you studying so far away? Why don't you just study in, Venus or Petra or, UPH? One of them even went to the extent that they were actually getting the form for me. At the time you have to write with pen and paper. And then she said to me, if you go to this university, you don't have to pay any tuition fee. I know the people who run the university. I was like, I don't want to go there. Okay. Sometimes it's really hard to know what you want and understand who you are as a person. You sometimes have to do a lot of reflection to know this. Okay. So the thing is, if you know who you are, you can accept who you are as a person, everything will become easier. Okay, because you're very grounded then. So the next thing, have a vision. Okay, so I don't always have a vision, but the thing is that from a very young age, I always know that my ideal job is where I actually can travel around the world. And my ideal job is when I work in the international environment. And that's why I was studying international communication management, okay, because I just want to do that. If there was an international marketing, then I probably would take international marketing, but the scholarship didn't cover that. But when I was in Bournemouth, doing my master's, I actually went and studied international marketing. Even if I thought back about when I was little, my first job, I wanted to be a journalist. And the reason that I wanted to be a journalist is because the opportunity to travel around the world and cover news. That's what I was saying to my mom. My mom said, but when you're a journalist, you will be very poor. I was like, really? So have a vision. What is it that you want to do? So in my job now, I'm the Associate Dean International. I travel quite extensively, but I really enjoy the travel. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Pakistan delivering a training. And then after I arrived in Pakistan, 2 days later, I was in Italy. I was in Rome to work, to deliver keynote speech in one of the conferences. And then a few days later, I'm here in Indonesia. And I still have a few travel plans until September. Okay, I think there's still 3 or 4 countries that I need to visit before September. So, and I think this is really interesting. You don't always have a vision, but I think knowing what sort of thing that you want to do is the same. I always tell myself that when I started to do my job as a lecturer, I basically said that, okay, one day I will become a professor. Okay. And it's quite interesting because if I think back about everything that I do, I started to, vision is a long term. Yeah, it's not a short term. It's not something that you can achieve within a month or 2. This is a very long term thinking. So if I think back about everything that I do, publications, how I work with students, how I get research grants, how I network, how I build external relationship with partners around the world, all of this is actually leading towards my professorship. However, what was quite interesting is that I said, okay, one day I'm going to be a professor, but I would not know, or I didn't know then when I would be a professor. So I always have this thinking or this belief that one day I would become a professor. Maybe when I was 70, maybe when I was 60, I don't really mind it, but one day I will become one. Okay? Having this kind of vision unconsciously help you to really put everything together, okay, or like do everything towards achieving this vision. Turning your vision into reality. So this is actually very important. Why? You cannot just have a vision without doing anything. It has to turn into action. Okay. What was quite interesting as well, I think it's like a lot of people have dreams, but not all of those dreams become reality. To turn those dreams into reality, it requires a lot of efforts, a lot of times, a lot of sacrifices, a lot of determination. Okay. So when you have a vision, you need to think about how can I actually achieve this vision? How can I actually turn this vision into reality? And this is actually very difficult to do, okay? Especially if you like to change your mind a lot, okay? But when you have a passion, when you actually know what you want to do, try to think about what sort of actions I need to do to be able to achieve this. Okay. And I think this is very important because you sometimes have to be quite strategic. You cannot do everything, but you really need to think how you can actually achieve it. I always also say that every little helps. So in the UK, there is a supermarket called Tesco. Tesco's slogan is every little helps. That's also my motto in life. Every little helps. I will do it little by little to achieve my vision. Sometimes it takes a lot of time or longer time to achieve your vision, but that's okay because it's a part of life, it's a part of experience. Dare to be different. This is actually very interesting. So I came from branding background, yeah? So everything that I'm telling you here is actually influenced by the theory of brand management. And I'm just applying in the context of maybe my life, which is a bit scary. But anyway, brands are created by humans, so you have a lot of the characteristics of humans. Dare to be different. This is interesting. Why? So when I started my job, everybody were asked to do a lot of publications. Everybody was asked to do a lot of grants. I like doing research. I like publishing. But when you want to publish in a really high-ranked journal, it can take you 3, 4, 5 years, 6, 7, 8 years. Okay. I don't have that patience to do it. However, I'm very good at grant applications and I'm very good at generating income for the university. I'm very good at setting up new projects or internationalization project for the university, which generate income. And then this is where I start to focus myself on. At the time, what was quite interesting is a lot of my colleagues were not really interested in the area, but I was. Okay. And then suddenly I became the expert in internationalization in the university. And then suddenly you bring, you bring a lot of values to the university and everybody around you without following the path or like the conservative path to become an academic. Okay? You need to be brave to be different. However, what I always find is when you are different, okay, it's actually quite nice. Why? Because you have skills that nobody else will have. And I think this is what will be valued by any employer. Okay, become the expert in your field, become very important. Taking the first step. Taking the first step is actually the hardest. Okay, so when we talk about thinking about the vision, trying to make it a reality is going to be really difficult. However, you have to start somewhere, somehow. Your path will not be perfect. Okay. So for example, when I was telling you when I was doing my master's and when I was doing my undergraduate degree, for example, I work in the restaurant like crazy hours, right? So a lot of people will say, why would you work in the restaurants and you were doing a master's degree? Why don't you find an internship somewhere? Okay, I was like, but if I do an internship, I will not get paid. I need to pay for my bills. I need to pay for my tuition fee. So I need to do something to cover my costs, because my goal at the time is to get my master's degree. Okay. So taking the first step is the hardest. Trying to, when you have an idea, trying to put into reality, the first time is the hardest. But as soon as you step, the second step will be easier. The subsequent steps will be much easier. Okay. So this quote here is also my favorite. They say like the big journeys begin with small steps. Small steps. Every little helps. Okay. Every little helps. You always need to think that. So you don't have to do massive thing in one go, but you have to do taking small steps. Sometimes you can't really see the difference, but when you look back, you actually have done a lot of things. And I think this is a very great feeling to be able to do that. Be consistent with your actions. Again, it's not about how big steps that you take, but it's about how small steps that you take and how many steps that you take. Okay, I think this is also very important about being very consistent. I think these things is something that I learned when I was doing my undergraduate and also my master's degree, because I was studying, because I had to manage my time really well to be able to study and also work. I don't have a lot of times every single day. So what I need to do is that I have to be very consistent. So I will, if I have an assessment, for example, I will do it little by little. I cannot do, for example, I will do an assessment within 24 hours. I couldn't do that. Why? Because I didn't have the time. So I need to be able to manage my time and then be very consistent and persistent with what I do. So again, every little helps. Okay. This consistency will make everything that you do, and these little steps will make everything you do become very easy. Okay, because you don't have to do big things in a short period of time. Don't be afraid of making mistakes and learn from your mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. I make so many mistakes. There was time when I started my new job, one of my colleagues was basically, one of my mentor basically said to me, Nathalia, this is a chance for you to make as many mistakes as you like. And then it's fine to make all of these mistakes. It's fine if, maybe the students criticize you. Because why? Because you will have a very long career where you can learn from your mistakes and rectify these mistakes. And I think this is very important. Don't be afraid in making mistakes. Sometimes people were so scared about making mistakes that they don't make the change or they don't take these first steps. Have you felt like that before? That you're so scared that you're going to make mistakes that you ended up not doing anything. Sometimes you started, maybe, I'm so scared of doing public speaking, for example. Yeah, you decided not to do it at all. But the thing is, the first step is the hardest. Okay. Be brave and seize opportunities. And I think this is very important. Be brave. You need to be brave. Okay, life is very tough. Life is very difficult. So be brave. I always think that I love adventures. Okay, I love new projects. I love working with so many different types of people, and I like to see opportunities that I couldn't see before. Do you know the word serendipity? When you see something and you try to do something, and then suddenly it have domino effects. Okay, serendipity is actually really great things to experience. Okay, you sometimes do not really know how to work out everything in your life. Okay, but opportunities will come to you, and when you see there are opportunities, don't be afraid to go for it and then try these new opportunities. So the next few slides is talking more about how you build a relationship with others. Okay, so you cannot be successful without support of other people. In the end of the day, we all social animal. We need others. We are living in a network. Okay. Now, the first thing that you want to think about is to build a strong network. Who is the people that you will be able to support you? Okay. It could be your family. It could be your friends. So in my case, when I was about to do my PhD, my mom was really against it, but my dad was there. Okay. And then my boyfriend, my husband now was there. Okay. My friends were there. They were actually giving me the encouragement to move forward. And even at work right now, I have a very close group of people that I really trust. Okay. Who I know if I have a project, if I'm working with them, they will always be there for me. Okay. Friends are also very important. And I have very, very good friends who would always be supporting me, and I would do the same for them. Okay. So identifying who are your support network is actually quite important. It may not be from family, it may not be from friends. Okay. But you will have somebody close to you who will always support you, who will always be happy for your achievement, and who will always be there for you when you fail. Okay. Having that support network is actually really crucial. It's very crucial for your well-being as well. Okay. Now, you have a support network. So this is the people who are very, very close to you. Yeah. People that you can actually trust. You can trust them with your life. Okay. And then you also have professional network. And this professional network is actually very important. I think I learned about this maybe in the last few years or so. I realized how important it is to have professional network. Especially in the academia, a lot of the academics decided that they only want to work with academics. Okay? But in my job, for example, working with people outside of academia is actually very important because this is where all opportunities happen. Opportunities for students, opportunities for projects, opportunities for knowledge transfer. Knowing as many people as possible is great. Sometimes you meet people, it doesn't lead anywhere. Okay. But the thing is, when you try to build a network, it can take years to build very meaningful networks, but you want to do it all the time. Okay. You have to be very consistent in building your network. Speaking to people who having the same experience or the same ideas as you actually really help because they can inspire you. Having a mentor is also very, very useful. So I think Nurul was talking about, you were given mentor through C codes, and then the winner earlier was also given mentors, right? So you want to make sure that you build that relationship with mentors because they will be able to give you a lot of advice and will be able to give you a lot of insight on how you can pursue very successful career. So we live in maybe in Indonesia, for example, they always say that you should not celebrate your success. Or if you were very loud about celebrating your success, people were saying, you were very, is it chongka? Not chongka. Sombong? Sombong, right? It's quite interesting because when you celebrate your success, it's a way for you to give you confidence. It's a way for you to celebrate all of the hurdles that you managed to overcome. So don't be afraid to celebrate your success. Share your success. And I think that's the only way that other people know how good you are. Okay. Maybe you should not talk about it all the time, that, every time you meet your friend, you talk about how successful you are. But, celebrate it. Tell other people. If you have LinkedIn, that's really great to actually say what you have achieved, right? Because it's a professional network. So don't be afraid to celebrate your success. Share it with other people. This is very important. Okay? Help and give back to others. So one of the things that I always feel when I became a lecturer, I would mentor PhD students. When I became an associate professor, I would mentor a lecturer. or lecturers, actually. When I became a professor, I mentored a lot of people. And it's just a way for me to give back. It's a way for me to help them. It's a way for me to, to tell them that, you will find the whole journey very difficult. I managed to do it. So I'm going to tell you how you will be able to do it without killing yourself, basically. What was quite interesting is, I don't know whether you're aware, but in the UK, in general, the number of people who are getting depression and mental health issues in academia is significantly high. In fact, it's probably one of the sector that has the highest number of people having depression and also mental health issues. Okay, so for me, I always think that whatever achievement that I achieve, I want to make sure that I will give back to other people. Maybe it's through projects, maybe it's through the community, maybe it's through the mentorship. And what was quite interesting is by giving back, by helping other people, you also extend your professional and your personal network. And I have mentioned earlier, personal and also professional network are actually very important to sustain and also support you in your journey. And then finally, this is very important. I think I was asking questions earlier, but how about self-care? Okay. We are only human. Okay. We cannot give all the time to others. We have to make sure that if you want to give, the more we give, the more we also need to take care of ourselves. Okay. Like I said, we are only human. So we want to make sure that first, we have to love ourselves. We have to love who we are as a person. Because otherwise, if you don't love yourself as a person, it will be very difficult for you to love other people and also to give back to other people. Okay. So from time to time, if a way for you to love yourself is good to have massage or spa or playing video games, do it. You need it. Okay? You do need the downtime. So for example, Monday to Friday, I work like a maniac. Maybe I start my meeting at about 8 o'clock in the morning. By 12 o'clock, I will travel around the world already. I will have a meeting with Sri Lanka, India, or whatever. And then in the afternoon, I will have to do more meetings. And then in between, I have to do my research or applying for funding grants. So it's very, very intense. But the thing is, on Saturday and Sunday, it will be my me time. On Saturday, I will do my gardening, or I will do my cooking, or I will go somewhere with my husband, for example. Okay. And then that is very important because why? If I keep working on Saturday, Sunday, I realize that by Monday, I would be really exhausted. Sometimes you want to go on holiday. As long as you can afford it, then you can go on holiday. Okay. And I think this is important because you have to make sure that first, you need to start by loving yourself and being kind to yourself. Anyway, there's so many things that you can do. There's so many different ways how you can do to achieve success. But all of the steps that I'm telling you just now is based on my reflection, not from ChatGPT, in terms of how, how I can actually overcome all of these hurdles in my journey. So I think we have a Q&A session now. Thank you. Then you can ask me questions now. Maybe you think that I was talking rubbish.
I think this session is supposed to be for me, not for the students. I guess. I was like reflecting on my careers as well. So I just joined Venus last year, Professor. And
you work all the time.
A bit, yeah. I'm a lab rat as well. Stay in the lab from morning till another morning as well. So it was like quite rough experience as well. So it's more like reflection for me as well. Okay. Anyway, I'll give the chance to your students if you want to ask any questions. Any questions? Or you want to share your story as well? It's okay.
Yes, tell your story. That will be great.
Hello, Miss.
Yeah.
And I'll introduce myself first. My name is Rayhan, a third year CS student. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate your journey and reaching PhD, the highest level of research. You mentioned a lot about AI and ChatGPT. Um, I want to ask your opinion about AI.
Yeah.
Realistically, as CS students,
Yeah.
if we look around, there's a lot of AI
Yeah.
and innovation.
Yeah.
And since you're in the highest research, I'd like to ask about the usage of AI in research. And as we're going on our fourth year, we're going to do thesis. So is there any advice to use AI ethically, or is there no place for AI in research at all?
So this is very interesting. I use AI too. Okay. So when I put these presentations, I was kind of like, oh, maybe let's have a look at quotes, like how could I actually find quotes for different things. Not all of them were great. Some of them were great. And I think it's interesting because when AI first came, it felt like when you used many years ago, we had Wikipedia. And technology actually evolves and we have to go with technology. So for example, maybe let's say 40 years ago, when people did PhD, they didn't have Google. They didn't have Google Scholars. They didn't have kind of like e-journals, for example. They will have to go looking at things. Sometimes they will have to type, like they have to use typewriters and stuff. This is very interesting because why? I just so in my class, this is an example. So last year, I'm teaching brand management and at the postgraduate level, yeah. And then one of the tasks for the students is to came up with a new brand, completely new brand. I have 118 students in my class. 59 of them came back with almost similar ideas, almost similar brand names, similar rubbish. 59 of them actually failed their assessment. And I'm not making up the number, it's just by incident and it's 59. And then I'm a very generous marker. The students love my class. But last year, I was looking beyond AI. So a lot of them were going to academic conduct because in our assessment, on the first page, they will have to declare whether they use AI. If they use AI, then they will have to say how they actually use it. Okay. But what was quite interesting with this is that all of the students were basically saying that they didn't use AI, but reading their assessment, that they were using AI. Okay. Some of them even come up with the same brand names. Can you imagine that? Say a similar concept, similar brand name, similar rubbish. And it's quite interesting. Why? Because they went to academic conduct, they failed, they were humiliated, they had to go through a 5R. It was horrible for them. And the worst thing is that I went to a graduation. I had to read out the name of the students who graduate, and the students who didn't graduate, a lot of them were actually from my class. And I was a generous marker. And it's quite interesting because this year, I changed the assessment completely and I asked them to work with companies. So we've got companies who came in and they work with them. You see that the best students, they would use AI and there is no issues with them about using AI. And I'm kind of like, by all means, use AI. But when you use AI, your work, my expectation as a lecturer is actually increased significantly. Okay. It's not just merely copying and pasting rubbish from ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever. It has to be very sophisticated that it cannot be replicated. So last week, I actually had somebody from 3M. So I was in Rome. So I met him. He was the president of 3M. And he became an expert in AI. And he basically said, you see that AI will help bad students or students who didn't perform well. But AI would also make the best to be better. You see? So AI is just a tool, it's just a technology, but the human element of it is still very important. The creativity is actually super important, and AI hasn't reached that yet. Yes, you can make a video within 3 minutes. You can make brand strategy in 2 minutes, okay, or like even less than 2 minutes. You can make brand strategy in 30 seconds. But the thing is, the contents are so bland, so uninspiring, and very rubbish. And this is when you know that you're actually just using AI, not using your brain. Okay? And I think this is important. Why? Because AI actually extend our expectations when we're marking your assessment. And AI also increase the expectation of your employers. Okay, so we always say AI can actually increase efficiency. So that means that a job that you could, that in the past you would do it in half a day, now could be done in 10 minutes. Then your boss will say, actually, you need to do something else, something else, something else. Okay, so can you imagine if you were just copying and pasting what AI give you without using your brain or your creativity? You go to a pitch for a company and they all come up with the same things. Okay, can you imagine that the company will say like, actually, all of these people were coming up with the same ideas, and all of these ideas coming from AI, not from their brains. They employ you not because you can do well in using AI, but they employ you because you show something that is beyond AI. Okay, because like with AI, everybody can do it. But whether you can utilize AI at the highest level, that's your challenge. Okay, so I think you really need to think about that, because why? AI make a lot of things easier, the same way that Google was, the same way that Wikipedia was. AI is just another tool. That's what I was thinking. So how do you know that when the students submit the work, you were reading it and you said, this is rubbish, this is rubbish, this is rubbish? Okay, because we still use our brain and our expertise to assess your work. And it's the same with your employers as well. And you don't want to be the slave of AI. That's quite important. Why? Because the human aspect of it is still very important. The creativity is still very important. Okay. Does it make sense? It's harder for you guys. So maybe if there was no AI, for example, the assessment that you submitted now would have been a pass. But because your lecturers know that there is AI, they will say, like, actually, I want this better. I want this 10 times better, because now you can make it a bit easier when you have AI. Is that all right? That's my view anyway.
I can't agree more. So after this, we'll raise our standards then. Agree? I think everyone agree with that.
You have to raise the standard. That's what I do, at least.
Okay. Not like the students happy here. You happy with that one? Happy. Okay. Thank you. At least one student still happy with it. Okay. Any more questions? Discussions? Good feedback.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm also from the same year.
Yeah.
I completely agree with the stance that we should use AI more as a tool to elevate our work instead of integrating it into the workflow completely. Since you have
Copying and pasting it.
yeah, you just like without copying and pasting, just integrating it into your workflow.
Yeah.
Instead, like an essay, you think of the idea, you research your topic, you write the essay. And then we could use AI to elevate the work, see what we did wrong, or see if it fits the assessment. But a lot of people have integrated AI to write it for them instead of us writing it. So I agree with the stance that we should just use it as a tool and not put it into the workflow. But I'm more curious on the marketing side of things, because you have a lot of experience there.
Yeah.
The increased usage of generated AI generated images for commercial purposes and marketing, especially considering our president has used AI generated images for their marketing campaign. And if you look around, a lot of brands have started using AI generated images for their marketing. What's your opinion on that?
It's very interesting, because I'm not sure whether if you came from the design course, what would they say about that? Because there's a lot of challenges around that. Yeah. So in my course, for example, I didn't teach them how to design things, but I would like them to use images. I don't care where it's coming from, as long as you actually acknowledge where AI actually came from. And the generated pictures of AI is actually very good. But the thing is, if you were studying design, okay, you become the expert in that. And then you use AI, it will elevate your work even more. So it's not just, again, it's the same concept whereby you use AI as a tool to maybe elevate your work, but you still have to input your creativity in that. What was quite interesting is there's a lot of worry among companies in terms of when they put for example, with ChatGPT, you can upload files, right, to AI. So some companies in the UK now have banned their employees to submit important documents to ChatGPT. The reason is because they don't know where this information will go. Do you remember WikiLeaks? Yeah. So can you imagine that if something happened, I'm not sure what the mechanics of AI is. Can you imagine if the OpenAI is being hacked? And then suddenly all of this information or like important data were actually being leaked everywhere. It could create a lot of problems, right? So I think as long as I'm using AI, I never put any documents up because I was really worried that one day it could go wrong. So using image AI generation is actually great, but it really depends on what's the purpose of it. Okay. And again, like I said, in a lot of our design courses at Napier, students are being encouraged to use AI, but they're also being encouraged to use AI to elevate their work. So like I said, the expectation will become higher. And I have seen work of advertising work, for example. So those that were created using AI that look excellent were actually using so many different AI tools and so many different tools so that you could never achieve with just using, by doing it by human. You maybe can do the same thing in a month, but then using AI, you can actually reduce that for maybe a couple of days. Okay. So again, AI is actually raise the bar of the expectation of the work that you actually produce. And the other thing is, when you're going for a pitch, for example, if you go for a pitch and then you show your ideas, and those ideas just be completed simply generated by simple AI tools, for example, or AI methods. The people who listen to your pitch will think like, actually, I can do that myself. Why would I hire this company to do this if I can just use ChatGPT to do it? Okay, so this is quite interesting because the menial jobs will become redundant. Okay, so again, AI is actually raised the bars in terms of the skills that you need to have, and we have to keep up with it. I mean, I'm not really sure. I don't really have a lot of AI knowledge. I use it very simply. But the thing is, I do know that a lot of companies or smaller companies, for example, they will say, I'm just going to generate it to AI. It doesn't make any difference for me anyway. But if you're creating multi-million pounds campaign, you do not want to use AI. You want to use the experts of AI to generate something for you. Okay, but it actually makes life harder. I think that's what I think. It makes your life easier to some extent, but in terms of creativity, in terms of innovation, you cannot really rely on AI. Okay, you still really need to rely on your brain, basically. And that makes it really hard. So yeah, tougher. Okay.
Thank you. So I think human evolves better than AI.
Oh,
right?
definitely.
Yeah. Once the AI being launched like 3 years ago, I think we didn't know what kind of things is this. But now I think humans evolve. We know already we can recognize without even using any tools detector. So we know that this is by AI, right? So don't worry, we are smarter than AI.
Yeah, so this is what I said earlier. So I've seen that AI could help bad students, but AI also can make best students extraordinary. So it really depends on how you use it, basically. And do you prefer to be like just so students or extraordinary students? That's the questions that you need to answer yourself.
Agree. Okay, any more questions? burning questions regarding anything about the career overseas, how to climb up to the professorship, the highest level in academic in UK, probably. If you have a dream to go overseas to have a career, professional, or maybe for study, you can ask many things. Anyone?
This is a question, I guess.
Uh-huh.
It's about self-branding. Since you went abroad in your study years, and did your self-branding change when you're Indo and then when you went abroad? So like, let's say I was talking to friends, but then if you're in abroad, is there like a different approach? Maybe that's probably my question.
Yeah, I think it's really good questions. So I was saying to colleagues earlier, it's really interesting because when I was abroad, I was in the Netherlands. When I was in the Netherlands, it was just be surrounded. There were so many Indonesian students there because we went on a scholarship. Wherever you go, there are a lot of Indonesian students, and I found that it's not that when I was being a part of the Indonesian community, I spoke Indonesian all the time. My English was not really, developing. I think in the same way as everybody. I think my life completely changed when I moved to the UK, because when I was in the UK, I was in Southampton. There were only 3 Indonesian students, so there's myself and then 2 girls who also left from the same university and then moved to the UK. And it was interesting because I think I mentioned to you earlier that my goal or like my vision is that I want to have an international job. I want to make sure that I'm very internationalized. And then suddenly I stepped out of my comfort zone, and I started networking with everything international. I was working with international students. I was hanging out with a lot of international students. I was embracing the culture. For some reason, maybe because when I was younger, I don't know, you kind of like still trying to find your identity. Even when I moved to Edinburgh, all of my friends suddenly become very international. I didn't really have a lot of international Indonesian network. What was funny was like maybe a few years ago, I was in the class and I was teaching, and then there was an Indonesian student, and then she came to me and then said like, "Would you come to Festival Indonesia in Edinburgh?" I was like, "What?" I didn't even know that there were so many Indonesian students in Edinburgh because I was working with the whole international community. I think to some extent, if I think back about it, I was kind of like, that's just a bit weird, yeah. Why did I ended up working with mostly international colleagues? So I also only maybe a few years ago, we have what we call Indonesian diaspora. So all of these academics in Indonesia, it's only a few years ago that I joined the Indonesian diaspora group, the academics. And also maybe just before COVID, I joined the Indonesian Scotland Society, for example. And I think it's weird because as I grow older and I grow mature, I appreciate my root more. That being Indonesian is actually great. But when I was younger, probably I didn't appreciate that as much as I would now. So right now it's something that I realize, Indonesia will always be a part of me. It's something that I'm very proud of. And then it's quite interesting because in the last few years, I ended up doing a lot of projects in Indonesia as a way for me to give back to Indonesia. But when I was younger, I don't think I was thinking that way. Okay, so that was quite interesting. So this is something that I embrace more. Sometimes I go abroad in different places. I think when I was younger, I would never think about wearing batik in like international conference or whatever. But now it's like, great, I'm just gonna wear this because the design is good. We can actually start really great conversation about batik, about where you're from. And people actually really appreciate when, like I said, people actually really appreciate who you are when you're very authentic, when you're actually honest, and you're very comfortable with your skin. Maybe when I was younger, you want to be somebody else. But then when I grew older, I just realized that actually being Indonesian is amazing. You know, like it's great. You can be really proud being Indonesian, and I will always carry that with me. And yeah, so I think that's probably will that answer your question? And I think it's great because why? Because I can always say, oh, I'm actually born and raised in Indonesia. I was like, really? People will talk about that. They were wondering, like, where are you from? Like, you have a really dodgy accent. They didn't know that it was Japanese accent, for example. So yeah, no, I think, you know, being comfortable in your own skin is actually super important. Okay.
Okay. So including the branding itself, being your own brand. Yeah, build your own brand. Don't just follow whatever is a trend right now, right?
Dare to be different. So
Dare to be different.
I put that in your on the slide. I have done, like I said, I've done so many mistakes. There's a lot of things that, you know, I was kind of like, why did I do this? So why did I do this when I was younger? But you learn from that mistakes and then you just move on. But having that kind of like being really sure and being honest with yourself is super important.
Yeah. And be authentic.
Be
yourself.
authentic.
Yeah. I think you should know what is your strength and what other people don't have. So that will be your brand.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Be confident with that skill. Okay. Any more questions? One more questions, maybe? Jude, do you want to ask questions?
I don't bite. No questions?
Oh, one question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Miss. Introduction. Maybe I'm Kanaya from Chicago Study. Okay, I want to ask something about burnout. Have you ever feel burnout and how you manage your burnout?
So this is really interesting, right? I have not experienced burnout as long as I know. And this is weird because like I said earlier, in the academia, the number of people who got depression, mental health issues, anxiety, including burnout, is actually significantly high. Okay. And it's really interesting. I have not, but I have witnessed a lot of people experiencing burnout. And normally when they have burnout, they will take time off for 6 months or a year or whatever. And a lot of people in my departments, for example, that I look after, also have experienced burnout. I also have a very good friends who work not in the academia who experience burnout. So I haven't. Touch wood, I will not. But I also know, for example, like this year has been incredibly busy year for me. It's actually like madness busy. I was traveling almost every every month. So this month I was in 3 different countries or wherever. And I realized that I will have a limit. I will have a time where I basically say enough is enough. I will not do it. I need to have a me time. I need to have a downtime. I need to have a self-care time. So for me, the weekend is actually super important. The weekend is where I try not to do any work. And as I mentioned to you earlier, I found that if I work Monday till Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, by Monday, I will absolutely be really exhausted and I can't really do very much. And I get really grumpy as well. So there are a few things that this is a few things that I always think about when I do my job. First, I will say, this is a job. This is not my life. This is a job. No matter how stressful it is just a job. Second, having the support network is actually really important. So I normally finish. So I normally start working about 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I will finish about 6 o'clock. What was quite interesting is near our university there is a gym. So I sign up for the gym. So I've been in a member of that gym for like, I don't know, 10 years or so. The great thing is that I just sign up to all of the classes in that gym at 6 o'clock. The funny thing is if you're late going to the gym, or if you didn't turn up to the gym after you sign up for a class, they charge you £3. Okay, so the gym is the only place that I never late. And the gym is the only place that I always turn up on time. You know, sometimes I was almost late, but I always turn up at the gym because it's a way for me to, after very busy at work, I will go to the gym and I will, you know, kind of like have an hour being at the gym, doing whatever exercise from Zumba to body combat to body balance to yoga or whatever. And then by the time you finish, you actually calm down. And then my husband will also go to the same gym. And then we will drive home. So from my house to the university, it took 17 minutes drive. In the evening, it's 15 minutes. In that 15 minutes time, I will actually tell him about we have 7.5 minutes each. So we basically talk about how crap our day was, like things that were really annoying or things that we want to celebrate. By the time you have that 15 minutes, you kind of like get into this high intensity of like moaning about life, basically, or like people who annoy you, and then you get home and then you're fine. Okay, so those are the small things that I do every day to maintain my mental health. By the time I got home, I hardly ever work again. So I put a lot of effort during that 7 or 8 hours that I was being there. The other thing that was quite interesting is when I was speaking to a lot of colleagues about, mental health issues or people who experience mental health issues, they have this feeling that they're never good enough. Okay. Funny enough, this is actually experienced mostly by women. They felt that they're never good enough. They have this imposter syndrome. I actually had a whole session on imposter syndrome when I was talking about empowering women in STEM, because it's something that was found in research. High achieving women always tend to have imposter syndrome. I used to have it as well. I probably still have it now. So this is when you feel that I'm actually don't deserve what what I actually get. So sometimes you will say you got the best dissertation, you got the best thesis, you won an award, and then you just say, oh, this is just nothing. And it's actually really bad in Indonesia. I think it's our culture when we're saying like you should not celebrate your success. I think that was really bad because it's actually have an impact on you. What you achieve is something extraordinary. When you become the best at something or become a runner-up of something, you have to celebrate. You have to be really happy about it because those small achievements, no matter small, those small achievements are the one that maintain you as a person. This is the one that give you confidence to move on. And I think that's quite important because I realized that a lot of people who experience burnout, it happens because they felt that they're not good enough. So they ended up overworked. They ended up, doing extra things that are not necessary. And the other thing is once you have a burnout, it tends to kind of like linger. It takes a lot of time to overcome. And then there is a chance if you don't maintain yourself, it can just come back quicker. Okay. So I think that's quite important, like how you have to maintain your well-being, like self-care is very important. If Monday to Friday you've been really busy at work, you have spent a lot of time studying, and then your friends say, let's go out on Saturday or Sunday, and you say, I don't want to go out, I just want to stay at home. Fine, stay at home. You don't have to go out and see your friends and then meet other people, for example, because you will need that downtime or me time. Everybody will need that. And it's the same for me. I think I was like Monday to Friday, it's really hardcore in terms of work for me. And then on Saturday, Sunday, I just don't want to speak to anybody. So I will sometimes see my friends during the weekdays as well. Because why? Because Saturday and Sunday will be my time and my family time, for example. And I think that's very important. Self-care.
Okay. I think that's important for all of us, including me, myself.
Especially the academics.
Academic is so much stress. Okay, Ferry, I think we're done. It's 3 o'clock. It's time to give a round of applause to our lecturer today. Thank you so much. And let's take a picture together on the stage, please.
Steam time.
Bagi dua aja, bagi dua. Satu lagi pakai sini. Oke. Pindah ke sana. Pak, ini you think there's any love behind it? It's a gay, Udah. Yes. Ya. Oh, kita lanjut lagi. Oh iya. Iya. Tanggal 30 Juni ya makanya. Oke. Ya, Pak, aku belum lihat. Aku bilang kok apa ini kan akan bisa. Iya, bisa talent.
Okay, don't forget your attendance. You can scan the QR code in the screen. And also we have a bit of snacks over here. So you just take one and enjoy your day. Yeah, one. Just open it and take one.
Jadi kita bisa Itu boleh diambil snacknya?
Yeah.
Ya. Dibuka.
We have lots of snacks here for you. Kalian ambil ya? Ya nggak apa-apa lah, boleh lah.